Oh, Ubisoft is making an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan. Obviously, there's going to be a female ninja. And oh, what's this? A black samurai. Of course. Is that Yasuke? Because when you think samurai and ninjas, you definitely think about the one black dude who lived in feudal Japan. Ubisoft released a trailer for the upcoming game Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it did not go well. For some reason, Ubisoft got the bright idea to make one of the main characters in the game set in feudal Japan a black dude. Now, to give Ubisoft credit, they didn't just cram a random black dude into the time period. Instead, they used an actual historical figure, Yasuke. We know very little about it. We know that he came to Japan in 1579 with an Italian Jesuit named Alessandro Villano as part of an inspection tour. At some point, Daimyo Oda Nobunaga heard about this dark-skinned man and wanted to see him. After having the man's skin scrubbed to prove his dark skin wasn't paint, Nobunaga took a liking to him, renamed him Yasuke, and brought Yasuke into his service as a kosho, a mix of a bodyguard and squire. Yasuke would have been a sword bearer and a gopher. The record gets murky after this. Some writers, such as Thomas Lockley, have speculated about Yasuke's past and his life in Japan, but there isn't much supporting their speculations. There are a few contemporary accounts about Yasuke, a handful of paintings of him or figures thought to be him, and that's about it. We don't know Yasuke's status among Nobunaga's entourage or how he was treated in general. We don't know if he already knew how to fight, if he was trained at Nobunaga's request, or if he fought at all. While a kosho is a samurai rank, there isn't any evidence that Yasuke was a full-fledged samurai. All we do know is that he was with Nobunaga when Akechi Mitsuhide betrayed the daimyo at Honno Temple in 1582. Yasuke was also present during the Battle of Tenmokuzan, where Toyotomi Hideyoshi defeated Nobunaga and forced him to commit seppuku. According to the records, Yasuke was captured by Hideyoshi's forces but apparently not executed. Everything after that is unknown. So, sure, that makes the character ripe for storytelling. But the question is, why is he the main character in Assassin's Creed? All the previous Assassin's Creed games had protagonists from the cultures featured in the games, usually from some important group during that time period. Yasuke wasn't born or even raised in Japan. It's thought that he was around 26 when he arrived in the country, and based on the records, he spent at best 3 or 4 years with Nobunaga. It's not clear how long he lived after Nobunaga's fall. Yasuke is in no way representative of Japanese people or their culture, so why make him one of the main characters? Well, we know why. To check the diversity box. There's no other reason to do this, especially given the time period. There wasn't a thriving black community in Japan at the time, or now, so the only reason to do this is to try to shoehorn identity politics into the game, except it's done in the worst way possible. For one, it's Japan. The Japanese are a minority population globally. They already checked the diversity box. 2, so much happened during the Sengoku period. There are so many stories to tell from the different groups of people affected by that period's power struggle. It doesn't make any sense to focus on the one black person in Japan at the time who had nothing to do with anything that happened. 3, the whole point of the game is to be an assassin who hides amongst the crowd. Being a tall, bulky black dude in a country full of short, pale-skinned people makes it hard to blend in. So, this did not go over well with Japanese people. The Japanese trailer on YouTube got flooded with comments trashing the game, saying that now they know what cultural appropriation feels like. And of course, the usual suspects on both sides of the political aisle are out in full force. You've got the right shouting woke and DEI and ESG with no further commentary other than the most recent NPC update, because God forbid anyone has an original thought anymore. And then you've got the far left moving the goalposts every 35 seconds. First it was, all y'all is racist. Then it was, Yasuke was an historical figure. Then it was, Yasuke was an actual samurai. And when that turned out not to be exactly true, they jumped to, the Assassin's Creed games ain't even historically accurate anyway. They settled in on that last one, but that argument makes no sense. The novelty and selling point of the Assassin's Creed games are their historical accuracy to locations, events, and people. Ubisoft weaves their Assassin story into those things. It's not meant to, and never has, supplanted them. Sure, the game features things like magic orbs, supernatural creatures, and aliens. That doesn't mean that it now makes sense for a black person to be the main character in the game set in the middle of feudal Japan. There's a difference between Ubisoft saying that the local folktales, myths, and legends of the setting might be true, versus making a black person the main character in the time period of a nation we know black people weren't even in or at. That doesn't mean Yasuke can't be in the game. He could be a side character the main characters encounter along their journey. But in a game built around Japanese culture set during one of Japan's most pivotal historical periods, it doesn't make any sense why Yasuke would be a lead character. He in no way represents Japanese culture or the Japanese experience. If Ubisoft wanted to create a story around black characters, they can pick from any number of historical African countries, like Kush, or use historical events that clearly involved black people and have at it. But they shouldn't inject black people into other people's cultures just to check a box. Now, as if this couldn't get any dumber, the controversy over the game led to some people going on Wikipedia and editing the page about Yasuke to make him out to be more important than he was. I wish I was kidding, but this is 100% true. These people went into a full-on old-school flame war in the talk section. And if you look at the revisions page, you can see all this started in 2021 when Netflix put out their Yasuke show. But most of the revisions have been between May 15th and May 17th of 2024, and the revisions center around whether Yasuke was a samurai and his role in historical events. It's gotten so bad that as of now, the page is locked. Look, I get it. I'm black. I like Japanese culture too. Hell, I constantly get mistaken for being Asian because of my eyes. But this shit right here, this has got to stop. You can't just claim a culture because you like it. You can't pretend that Yasuke was one of Japan's greatest samurai when nothing in the historical record says anything like this. It just isn't true, and it doesn't have to be. You can appreciate Japanese culture without trying to claim that black people were samurai too. No, we weren't. That wasn't a thing, and that's alright. Now, if you want to cosplay as a samurai, well then knock your black ass out. If you want to write a story where Japan becomes the dominant global power and their culture spreads into Africa, by all means, do it. That could be one hell of a story, especially if you merge the languages. I mean, you haven't lived until you heard a Japanese speaker fuck up German. Can you imagine how they deal with one of them African click languages? Probably sound like they got a mouthful of pop rocks. That's how you solve this non-problem of there not being enough black people in Japanese culture. You make up a world where they would have crossed paths. You don't try to play revisionist history just to check a box, especially when you're going to have to pay for that box, because this is Ubisoft, and they love their microtransactions. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.